Dear students, welcome back to another lesson. Today we are going to study Dr. Faustus' plot structure. In the previous class, we saw the characters involved in Dr. Faustus. We also saw the character map. So, when we get into the plot structure of Dr. Faustus, the main characters involved in this structure are Dr. Faustus, Mephastophilis, Lucifer, servant of Dr. Faustus and his two friends, and the consciousness of Dr. Faustus, good angel and bad angel, are the main characters involved in Dr. Faustus. For the convenience of this time structure, I have divided my lecture, the plot structure, into two parts. Part 1 will be talking about Dr. Faustus learning the black magic and his first experience after learning black magic in the part 1 lecture. Part 2 will be talking about Dr. Faustus' consciousness after learning the black magic. So these are the two subdivisions I have classified my lecture. So let's get into the lecture, today's lecture, plot structure part 1. Dr. Faustus, plot structure part 1. Dr. Faustus is a well-respected German scholar. When the play opens, he is not satisfied with the limits of the traditional forms of knowledge. He is a doctorate of logic, he is a doctorate of medicine, he is a doctorate of law, he is a doctorate in religion. So he is not satisfied with the knowledge he has gained. So he decides to learn a new knowledge, to gain new knowledge, and he decides to practice magic. Dr. Faustus' friends Valdes and Cornelius instruct him in the black magic. He begins his new career as a magician by calling Mephastophilis a devil. Mephastophilis, when appears before Dr. Faustus, warns about the horrors of hell. But Dr. Faustus tells the devil to ask his master Lucifer with an offer. The offer Dr. Faustus gives to Lucifer is the soul of Dr. Faustus in exchange for 24 years of service from Mephastophilis. So Dr. Faustus is ready to sell his soul to Lucifer, and in exchange he asks 24 years of service to Faustus from Mephastophilis. Meanwhile, Wagner, Faustus' servant, also learns magic from his master, Dr. Faustus, and he uses it. He employs the magic and keeps Robin as his servant. So simple. So Dr. Faustus decides to learn magic. He calls Mephastophilis, and Mephastophilis gets a permission from his master Lucifer, and he accepts the offer of Dr. Faustus to serve him for 24 years. And in meantime, Dr. Faustus' servant Wagner also learns the magic, and he employs Robin as his servant. So this is the rough story. When we get into the story, detailed story, we will be talking this in a detailed manner. So this is only a plot structure. So this is the outline story. Okay. Now, Mephastophilis returns to Faustus after taking the offer of Dr. Faustus to Lucifer. He says that Lucifer has accepted Dr. Faustus' offer. Faustus agrees to deal and sign the bond with his blood. So what is it? That Mephastophilis goes to Lucifer, his master, and talks about the offer given by Faustus. So Lucifer accepts Dr. Faustus' offer. So, and there is an agreement between Faustus and Lucifer in which is signed in blood. So it is signed in blood, and it says that Mephastophilis will work for Faustus for 24 years. So as soon as it is signed, the agreement is signed, the words appear in the hands of Dr. Faustus, Homo fuge. It is a Latin word which means, "Oh man, fly," appears on his arm. Mephastophilis gives him a book of spells. Spells is magic words to learn. Later, Mephastophilis answers all the questions, but he refuses to answer one question: who made the universe? So, Dr. Faustus, after Mephastophilis gives him a book to learn magic spells, mantras, magic mantras, Mephastophilis becomes a servant of Dr. Faustus and answers all the questions of Dr. Faustus. But he refuses to answer one question: who made the universe? This is the question which Mephastophilis refuses to answer, and he says he is not um, he cannot say the answer without the order of the Lucifer. This is what Mephastophilis says. When Faustus demands the answer from Mephastophilis, Mephastophilis calls his master Lucifer. Lucifer comes to Dr. Faustus and brings the parade of personification of 7 deadly sins in front of Dr. Faustus. Faustus begins to travel with Mephastophilis. He first goes to Rome. In Rome, he goes to Pope's court. He makes himself invisible and plays a series of tricks with Pope. He steals the food of Pope, and he also kicks Pope's ear invisible. Next, he travels through the court of Europe. His fame spreads. One day, he is invited to the court of German Emperor Charles V, the enemy of Pope. Charles V asked Faustus to bring Alexander the Great, the famed 4th century BC Macedonian king and the conqueror, in spirit. Dr. Faustus brings the spirit of Alexander, and Charles V is impressed. A knight in the Charles V court doubts at Dr. Faustus' power. Dr. Faustus gets angry and makes antlers sprout from his head. Antlers is antenna. Sprout is grow from the head of the knight. The knight gets angry, he vows revenge. Meanwhile, Robin, the servant of Wagner, Wagner is the servant of Faustus, the clown, also learns some magic on his own from Wagner. He, with his friend Raphael, calls Mephastophilis. Mephastophilis appears before Robin and Raphael and gets angry and turns them into animals for their foolishness. Thank you, dear students. We will continue our lecture in the next part. So far, we have seen that Dr. Faustus is a German scholar who has decided to learn magic. And with the help of his friends, Wagner and Cornelius, he takes up black magic. When he learns black magic, his servant also learns some magic and he employs Robin as his servant. When Dr. Faustus calls Mephastophilis, they get into an agreement in the blood for 24 years of service from Mephastophilis. So Mephastophilis gives magic books to learn. As a result, now Dr. Faustus is able to fly, invisible to anyone. So he goes to Rome. He enters into Pope's chamber, invisible, and he makes the food disappear. He also boxes with Dr. Faustus. He also boxes with Pope, invisible. And he travels to Europe. He goes to Charles V court, who is an enemy of Pope, and Charles V wants Alexander the Great in spirit. Dr. Faustus brings Alexander the Great before Charles V. Charles V becomes very happy. And in meantime, Wagner, the servant of Dr. Faustus, has appointed Robin as his servant, and Robin too learns some magic from Wagner, and he appoints Raphael as his servant. When Raphael and Robin call Mephastophilis, Mephastophilis appear before them and they get angry. Mephastophilis gets angry and turn Robin and Raphael into animals. So this is what the part 1 is closed. So we will see what Dr. Faustus does in the next part. So this is the rough outline story of Dr. Faustus. Thank you, dear students. We will meet you in the next class.